What is this for?
For who goes first, second, and third.
Sneaking order. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all open them up. What you got? One. I'll go first.
Monty, boy.
I've got 3 and I've got 2.
All right.
We're going to get started now. Welcome to the Obion County Republican Party 2025 Reagan Day Dinner in Union City, Tennessee. We appreciate y'all coming out tonight. We've got folks from every county surrounding Obion County and most of the both grand divisions of the state besides West Tennessee here tonight. And I know it's packed and I know it's warm, and I appreciate y'all coming out anyway. Okay, if you are with us tonight and you are able, please stand and face the American flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight we're going to have a straw poll at the gubernatorial candidates have drawn numbers, and so we know which order that they will be in. And Senator Blackburn was unable to attend tonight at the last minute. She was stuck in Washington due to the government shutdown. They're anticipating some sort of vote there tonight, so she is unable to be with us. But her surrogate, Mayor Glenn Jacobs from Knox County, is with us and will take her place. At this time, is Congressman Kustoff here with us? This time I'd like to ask Congressman David Kustoff to come up and kind of open us up with some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be here in Obion County tonight, and it's great to see such a great turnout of Republicans from Northwest Tennessee. This should make you feel good. It makes me feel good. I want to congratulate you, John, first of all, on a successful event, your whole team. I know that Republican women had a big part in this, so we thank you and thank everybody for being here. If I can, 3 things. Good news, bad news, and a message. Let me give you good news from Memphis and Shelby County. I want to recognize President Trump and Governor Bill Lee for instituting the Memphis Safe Task Force. I've got to tell you, since this task force was constituted, a federal, state, and local law enforcement and the National Guard, they have made over 2,200 arrests, almost 150 gang members. This is an amazing statistic. They have found 97 missing children as of yesterday. Truly incredible work. Senator Brent Taylor is here from Shelby County. He's been talking about this a lot. There's a different vibe in Memphis. There really is. People want to feel safe, and it doesn't matter what party you belong to, what part of town you belong to, but you got to give the credit to President Donald Trump for instituting the Memphis Safe Task Force, and I do exactly that. So we thank the President, and we also thank the Governor for deploying the Highway Patrol in Memphis and Shelby County. The second thing, now this is not good news. The government has now been shut down for over 37 days. Let me tell you, on September the 19th, my colleagues and I in the House, John Rose and others, voted on what's called a continuing resolution. It would fund the government. It's clean. It would fund the government through later this month, and keep federal employees on the payroll and be able to have our constituents, you all, take advantage of the services that you're entitled to. Every single Democrat in the House of Representatives but one voted against it. They voted to shut the government down. And in the Senate, where they need 60 votes, not 51, but 60, they've taken this vote 14 times to reopen the government. Each and every time, that vote has failed. So that means federal employees are not getting paid. That means federal law enforcement don't get paid. That means air traffic controllers don't get paid. That affects SNAP benefits. That affects everything that the government funds. And the reason that the Democrats are doing this is purely because they hate Donald Trump. That's it. This is the way they think they try to send a message to their far left constituents. 7 months ago, when we voted on another continuing resolution back in March, Chuck Schumer argued to his Democratic colleagues that they needed to pass a clean continuing resolution. And he did that, and he got politically annihilated from the AOCs and the people on the far left side of his party. They just beat the heck out of him. And his colleagues and him looked at that and they said, we don't want to go through that again. We don't want to get beat up by the AOCs and the Mondamis of the world. They're scared of their own people. They need to do what's best for the American people and reopen this government. And Donald Trump is committed to that. John Thune is committed to that. Mike Johnson is committed to that. And David Kustoff is committed to that. And we're going to make sure that we represent your interest. So we promise you that. Last thing is a message. I talked to the Federation of Republican Women several weeks ago in Chattanooga. And we were about a year from the November election of 24, where we had great victories. We re-elected Donald Trump as President of the United States. We flipped the Senate. We kept the majority in the House. And to me, and if you ask President Trump, he would tell you one of the main reasons he thinks that people voted for him was because he talked about the problem at the southern border and he would fix it. And he did. We all know the hundreds of thousands of people that were coming over illegally during the Biden administration. Each and every month, Donald Trump shut down the southern border, and we're not seeing those people come across the border anymore. He solved the problem. But you know what happened? Our people are happy and content, and their people are mad and they're full of hate. And they went out on Tuesday, and I'm going to tell you something. Mad and angry people vote, and happy and content people don't vote. So my message to you is this. We're a long way away from November of 2026, when we're going to elect a new governor, and we're going to re-elect Bill Hagerty, and we're going to vote on the Senate, and we're going to vote on the House. But I'm going to tell you something. If we don't motivate our people to come out and vote, we can't just assume that because people are happy with President Trump that they're going to come out and vote. We've got to make sure we've got to knock on doors. We've got to call phones. We've got to get our folks that we go to church with and that we go to school with and that we work with. We have got to make sure that they go out and vote. I'm committed to doing that because I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to be in the minority in the House of Representatives. If we lose the House of Representatives or the Senate, they are going to try to impeach Donald Trump, and they're going to haul every administration figure before every committee that they can. We're working for the American people. We're working for the working man and the working woman. And we want to make sure that we keep America first and that we keep our conservative values and ideals. That's what I'm committed to do. That's what y'all are committed to do. And in this country, we can say this, and I'm going to close with this. May God bless you all, and may God bless this great country of ours. Thank you all very much. May God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman Kustoff. We appreciate those words of encouragement, and I would echo what he said. Let's not take for granted us being in power. We know how quickly that can change, and so it's up to all of us to talk to our neighbors, our friends, our family, and get people out and vote. Two people I want to recognize tonight, Ryan Elligood and Tess Robbins. Would y'all please stand up? Ryan and Tess serves as our SEC committee man and woman for our district, and they do a fantastic job representing our interest here in Obion County to the full state SEC. Now I'm going to introduce to you Mayor Steve Carr, the Obion County mayor. He is a Republican mayor and a dear friend of mine. Steve, are you here? Yeah, come on up. Steve's going to say a few words to you, and then after that we will get into State Representative Rusty Grill and State Representative Chris Hurt. But Mayor Carr, thank you for coming up.
Well, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to Obion County, and it's certainly a joy and a privilege as I look and see this room filled with all of you. As I was talking with John as we were putting this together, we had to actually stop the reservations because we just ran out of room, and we could have sold about 1,000 tickets if we had a place to put them. But we're so delighted that you're here, and I hope that you will make yourselves at home. I'm old enough to remember when they used to say about the Obion County Republicans, they had a meeting, they met over there in the telephone booth. You know, we used to have that few people that really were active, but I, looking around tonight and looking at the past elections over the last 20 years, they can't say that anymore about us. And so I'm so delighted to be a part of our great party as we work together and as we continue to try to better our communities, our state, and the country that we love so much. You know, this is a Reagan Day dinner, so I think it's appropriate tonight that we at least think about one of the statements that President Reagan made that stands out, at least in my mind, and maybe you may remember this story as well. But it seems that President Reagan recalled a time when the Democrats had gathered for a little mini convention in the city, and as they were exiting their meeting, there was a little boy standing out front, and he was selling kittens. And he was holding up the kittens, and he said, "Please buy a Democrat kitten. Please buy a Democrat kitten." Well, they went on. About 2 weeks later, the Republicans had a meeting in the same convention center. And as the Republicans were leaving the meeting, the same little boy was standing there, and he was holding up these kittens. And he said, "Please buy a Republican kitten. Buy a Republican kitten." And there was a news media person there. They remembered seeing the little boy 2 weeks ago, and they said, "Look, young man," said, "I remember seeing you 2 weeks ago, and you were holding up these kittens saying they were Democrat kittens." He said, "Why are they Republican kittens tonight, 2 weeks later?" He said, "Because now they got their eyes open." And I want to tell you something. Getting people's eyes open has never been more important than right now. You think about what happened just 2 or 3 nights ago in New York City, the same city where 24 years ago Muslim terrorists attacked our country, murdering 3,000 people there around the Twin Towers. And in 24 years later, that same city goes and elects a Muslim communist to be the mayor. People need to get their eyes open. Get their eyes open. And sometimes we think, well, it only happens in the big cities. That's what they want us to think, because little by little they're trying to infiltrate our communities. Never think that we're not a target. That's why it's so important to remember that local elections do count. And it's important that we continue to vote and elect Republicans to our offices in these local counties all around us. And you know, we're doing our part in Northwest Tennessee, and I commend all of you for all that you're doing. I thank you so much. Thank you for being here tonight. We've got a great night for us. I do want to say one special word. I want to say thanks to John McMahon, our chairman, because he has worked tirelessly to help put this together, and he's done a tremendous job. And I want us to give him a big round of applause tonight. Thank you so much. If I can be of any help to you, just let me know. And God bless you. Again, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Before we move on to the next speaker, one of the things I'd like to do tonight is to recognize the 913th Engineering Company for hosting us here. They're about to be deployed to Memphis tomorrow and Sunday. So we've got to break down all of this tonight and return this facility back to them where they can work on their deployment. So let's give a round of applause to the 913th. And our next speaker is a good friend of mine, State Representative Rusty Grills. Come on up and talk to us, Rusty.
I want to echo everything that Mayor Carr said and how important it is that we understand that this nation was founded upon Christian values, Judeo-Christian values, those of strong families, hard work, those that have eternal value. And that's what this nation was founded on. And what he described that happened in New York City is we will look back in hundreds of years from now and be ashamed of that. I'm confident. First off, though, I do want to thank John and the efforts from the Republican Party up here in Obion County and how much work they put in to put this together. I know it's not nothing easy. Thank you for that. And also, I want to thank all the county commissioners that are here. And John, I don't mean to steal any of your thunder, but Mayor Carr was talking about local elections and how that impacts. A few months ago, you guys had a budget issue. And where's the county commissioner's head? If you're a Republican county commissioner here, just raise your hand, or an office holder. Yeah. Kudos to you guys for putting your name on the ballot as a Republican. And you know, a few months ago, you had an issue with some money, and you were short on dollars. And there was tax increase. You kept talking about tax increase, and the next thing you know, you guys went to work and you fought off the tax increase. You didn't raise taxes on the citizens of Obion County because conservatism matters, and Republicans in leadership paid off once again right there in that position. So thank you guys for your hard work in that regard. But I want to give you just a couple of seconds of why I'm proud to be a Tennessean. And when you look around other states, my wife and I, my daughter just got back from a trip last night, and we were talking to different people and like, where are you from? Well, I'm from Tennessee. Well, man, it must be nice to live up there. Oh, it's great to live over there. Man, I wish, what's it like to live there? And you get to hear this question over and over and over again whenever you travel to different states. You talk to different legislators at different legislative conferences, and they're like, man, y'all sure are doing it right over there. What makes us so much different than every other state in the union? The political direction of our state is a conservative direction. We have low taxes. We have less regulations. We're pro-family. We have the right business climate. We do things God's way here in Tennessee, and I believe with God's way, you get God's blessings. Now, does that mean we do everything right? I'm not trying to say we do everything right. But the Marxist, socialist, extremist, leftist view of the Democrat Party hates us and hates what we stand for. And it's apparent that we stand against that, and we stand on the things that we were founded on. One of the highlights of my legislative career, I guess last year, Senator Brent Taylor is here. He and I got to carry a piece of legislation. Then I get a call one day last, I guess it was December. And a buddy of mine said, hey, Rusty, you remember that legislation you carried about immigration? I'm like, yeah. He said, there's a news story out that piece of legislation that you carried was what equipped ICE to come to Nashville and to take these troublemakers, gangs, get them out of here and get them back where they belong. So Senator Taylor, thank you for working with me and allowing me to work with you to to get that thing accomplished, because that was, and there's just so many different directions I want to go here. But I was thinking today, like, well, how do you compare what we stand for versus what they stand for? And when I say they, I mean those on the left. And they call us extremists because we don't want boys to go in to girls' bathrooms, and we don't want boys playing girls' sports. We want the economy growing, and they want government growing. We want inflation to shrink, and they want the influence of America to shrink in the world. We want parents controlling families, and they want bureaucrats. We believe in personal responsibility, and they believe in government responsibility. We want God's blessings, and they want God removed from everything. We stand for the flag, and they want to burn it. So you tell me, is there any virtue in the Democratic Party? I submit to you, there's not. And that's the reason I am a Republican. That's the reason I'm proud to support Republicans. That's the reason I'm proud to stand with Republicans. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate all of you for being here tonight, just letting everyone know that you're proud to be a Republican as well.
Thank you, Rusty. Next up, state representatives. A lot of people don't know we have a split district here in Obion County. So we have two state representatives. Rusty Grills represents the upper part of our county, and the lower part is State Representative Chris Hurt. Chris, come on up.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight. Hope everybody's having a good evening. I appreciate the invitation to say a few words, and I won't be too long. I want to start first by, Rusty, I'm going to beat you to it. You didn't recognize. I'm going to recognize my wife here, so if it wasn't for her, I got you. If Dawn would stand up, I want to recognize her. She gets mad at me when I do it, but I couldn't do this if it wasn't for her. So, thank you very much. Most of her kids are out of the house now, and she stays home and stayed home, especially when I was first elected, and handled all 5 kids, and now we've got grandkids, 2 and 1 more on the way, so I like to get that plug in because we're so proud of our family, and I'm proud of her and appreciate everything she's done for us. It's an honor to represent the 82nd District, which includes part of Obion County, and with that being said, I'm going to say a few words tonight. I want to talk just a minute about what we're doing in Nashville with the budget, and then I want to finish with talking about our political landscape. So in Tennessee, under Republican leadership, we passed a balanced budget. Constitutionally, we passed a balanced budget every year. This year it was just shy of $60 million, and it included critical investments in infrastructure, education, public safety, health and hospitals, and especially rural hospitals. We put an additional $1 billion into roads. I say that because when I was elected in 2018, our budget we passed was right at $36 billion. That's a huge increase in 7 years. And it's a concern for some of us. I understand our growth in our state. We have to spend more money. I understand inflation. But we want you to know that we are concerned about that. And you'll hear that mentioned later tonight. We do have a concern there. And I do hope the incoming governor will keep an eye on that. I'm not saying we're spending too much because we're balanced and we're doing things good. But at the same time, we need to make sure if you go through that budget, there are a lot of things in there that we need to prioritize our money. We have about $20 billion behind in road work and maintenance. We're going to get there, and I hope the incoming governor will keep that in mind and prioritize those monies because we're spending a lot of money in Tennessee, a balanced budget, but we are spending a lot of money, and we want to make sure it's prioritized in a conservative way and doing the things we need. So that, as far as the budget, and I just want to get a plug in there because we do want to keep an eye on it. That being said, we are still ranked in Tennessee under Republican leadership #1 in global access and infrastructure, #1 state to save money, the lowest state debt per capita, and one we probably need to work on a little bit. We're second lowest state in local taxes and paid per capita. I'm proud to be part of the leadership that has led Tennessee to that point, and we're going to continue improving and getting there. And I trust that Governor Lee's done a good job with some of these things. I trust that our next governor is going to keep us in a good direction with help from the legislature. The last thing I want to talk about a little bit is our political landscape. I was honored to be invited to a Charlie Kirk Memorial a month or so ago here in Union City and had the opportunity to speak. And I just want to touch on a few points that I said there because it's very important in our country and what we're facing right now, the political landscape and what we're doing. But I tell people then that the Charlie Kirk tragedy and the things that happened, we need to keep our eyes focused on the good. There's a lot of good out there. We can see the bad. You've got to acknowledge it, and you've got to pray for it, and you've got to do things to address it. But at the same time, find the good. I do think that because of the happenings and the things that we're seeing moving forward, we're going to get back, and we're in the process of getting back to civil debate. And we've got to be able to do that as a society, to have people and have civil discussions with people we disagree with. You may agree to disagree or you may find common ground, but we've got to do that, and I do believe that we are headed in that direction. Second, one thing I'd like to point out, and Charlie Kirk said it at one point, is there are more high school age and college age youth today listening to Christian radio than since they started recording that. That is a huge step. That is wonderful. That's music to my ears because I think, and I'll close with this, our youth are waking up. Obviously, as adults, we're here, we're conservatives, but our youth are waking up, and you're seeing more of the activities on college campuses and high schools, and that's a promising thing, and we're going to do our part to continue that discussion, to continue that for our youth because they are our future. And I say that, I thank you for the time to speak tonight. I thank all of you for being here. I thank everybody that put this together. Again, continue to pray for our state and our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Mr. Richard Archie with the Tennessee Firearms Association. He probably doesn't need any introduction because most of y'all that are politicians have probably been mad at him at one time or another, but he's a regular contributor here. He comes up and speaks to us at our party meetings, and we look to Richard to kind of hold those in power accountable with our Second Amendment. So Richard Archie with the Tennessee Firearms Association.
My name is C. Richard Archie. If you don't know me, you can probably ask somebody at your table, and they do. That doesn't necessarily mean they love me, but by the same token, most of them are going to know who I am. And if you don't now, you will before the night's over. I want to talk to you a little bit about our Constitution in the state of Tennessee. From our 1796 Constitution, this is what it said. We the people do ordain and establish the following Constitution or form of government, and do mutually agree with each other to form ourselves into a free and independent state by the name of the state of Tennessee. I want you to think back just a second on what I said. The Constitution is our form of government. If the people that are serving you in Nashville don't understand what that Constitution is, how can they possibly be doing the right thing? So I didn't learn the Constitution in school in Tennessee. They didn't teach it to me. We're failing in our fiduciary responsibility to our youth to inform them as to what our government's supposed to be. This state is held to this chain placed on them by that same document. The Declaration of Rights hereto annexed is declared to be a part of the Constitution of this state and shall never be violated on any pretense whatever. And to guard against transgression of the high powers which we have delegated, we declare that everything contained in the Declaration of Rights is accepted out of the general powers of government and shall forever remain inviolate. Now that's pretty strong wording. And if you got out of the 8th grade, if you passed and matriculated and got to go to high school, you can probably understand that if somebody told you what it said. From the 2022 Federal Supreme Court Bruin case, this says, and I quote, "In Heller and McDonald, we held that the Second and 14th Amendments protect an individual right to keep and bear arms for self-defense." We don't have that right in Tennessee now. If in fact you're required to use a firearm to protect yourself or somebody that you're responsible for, you are, under our state rules right now, guilty of at least manslaughter if you take a person's life. Now, you can go to the grand jury and convince them that you were justified in your use, but otherwise, what you are is guilty of a crime for doing what the Supreme Court of the United States has said is your unalienable and indefeasible right. The TFA has been attempting to restore the Second Amendment right guaranteed in our 1796 Constitution to keep and to bear arms for our common defense. We've been doing that for the last 30 years. And for the last 16, there has been a supermajority of Republicans in the General Assembly who could have simply passed legislation to codify by statute that right. Only legislators get to make laws. Governors don't get to do that. Okay? You need to understand that. Instead, that same body has made it a crime. Starting in 1801 to restrict the carrying of handguns to 1989 when it made it a crime to carry long guns outside of hunting or sport shooting. Gun Owners of America and Gun Owners Foundation, along with Stephen L. Hughes, Duncan Amar, and Elena Keel, sued the governor and the attorney general, who, by the way, owes no responsibility to the people of Tennessee for their rights. He works for the governor. He's appointed by the governor. He's elected by the Supreme Court. Those people are appointed to their positions by the governor. And so what you've got is a situation where the attorney general has no responsibility to the people. We need to change that. That needs to be an elected position because we are supposed to be protected by our government. Now, hence so by the way, in that case, we sued, we won. A three-judge panel declared that 3917-1307A, which the intent to go armed statute under Tennessee law, is unconstitutional. The Attorney General and the Governor of Tennessee have appealed that because they want to make sure that you don't have the ability to enjoy that right which is guaranteed you by the Constitution. My question tonight, before my maker and before this assembly right here, to the candidates for the office of governor is twofold. What is your stance on the Hughes v. Lee case that we just won and is now getting appealed by the governor? Second, if elected, what will each of you promise here tonight in front of us to do to restore the original intent of our founders with respect to the right of the people to keep and bear arms? Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. You know, each election cycle we get geared up here in Obion County to get out and support our local politicians and our local Republicans and our state Republicans as they get ready to run their campaigns. And we're like every other county. We've got steadfast people that we know we can count on in our community. People that we don't have to call and ask, you going to be with us this time? Can you donate some hours this time? Can you put some money in? Can you man a polling station? Can you put yard signs out? We've got dedicated people here in Obion County, and we're really proud of them. And so we're going to honor one of them tonight. And the guy that I want to talk to you about, you've probably seen him if you live around the South Fulton area. He's probably got if we're in a Trump election season, he's got a Trump sign in the back of his truck, and if we're electing Rusty again, he's got Rusty sign in the back of his truck. But you can always depend on him. Every time we get in an election cycle, I load up a bunch of yard signs and I take them straight to his house because I know that he is dependable. So I want to read this certificate that we've got tonight. This certificate is awarded in recognition of your exceptional leadership, dedication to conservative values, and outstanding service to the Republican cause. Your commitment to freedom, fiscal responsibility, and the principles that strengthen our nation exemplifies the best of Republican ideals. And that's Mr. James Pierce. Come up here.
Mr. James has also been a great friend of mine. And when John and I were talking about doing this, it's like, I want to do something for him as well. And in his fight to defend freedom and liberty here in the state of Tennessee and across the nation for helping state officials get elected, local officials get elected, and national officials get elected, we've had 2 flags flown over the Capitol, one Tennessee flag and one American flag in honor of you, Mr. James. So we just want to tell you how much we love you, thank you, and appreciate your sacrifice and efforts you put forth to get Republicans elected.
We love you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going to leave these up here. You can get them before you leave.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right. So we're gonna start off with our 3 gubernatorial candidates now. And as I explained when everybody was being so loud in the beginning that you probably didn't hear me, but Senator Blackburn was unable to be here tonight. She is in Washington with the government shutdown issue. So I'm gonna, Mayor Glenn Jacobs from Knox County is here in her stead, and so I'd like you to welcome him up here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, as Chairman McMahon was giving his housewarming comments, he talked about the issue with the restrooms here and laid down some rules to keep the men out of women's bathroom. And I thought to myself, how different it would be if I was at a Democrat function. So thank you all for having me. As was mentioned, Senator Blackburn cannot be here tonight. She is stuck in Washington, D.C., fighting a pesky organization called the Democrat Party, which seems intent on destroying our country. But I did speak to her before I came into the building tonight, and she would much rather be here with you all than where she is at. Trust her on that. But my name is Glenn Jacobs. I'm the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, and it is my honor to speak on behalf of Senator Blackburn here tonight. A while ago, I was back in my home state of Missouri. I was invited by their legislature and their governor to talk about our experience here in Tennessee without an income tax. Now, how many of you all are happy that you do not have to pay a tax on the fruit of your labor here in our great state? You can thank Senator Marsha Blackburn for that, because she was the one who led the fight against the implementation of a state income tax back in the early 2000s. But what was especially poignant to me with my visit to Missouri was how, to a person, every one of their Republican legislators told me that they want to be more like Tennessee, that Tennessee has it going on. And yes, I do believe that we are the greatest state in the union. The reason for that is because we have the greatest people in the greatest state in the union. But we also have to recognize another part of the reason for that, and that is the policies that have been put forth by the folks who govern our state, who have done a wonderful job, many of whom are here tonight. Who governs does matter. So thank you to our state and local elected officials for the wonderful job that they've done to keep us the best state in the country. But here's the thing. We all know in our own lives, our personal lives, our professional lives, there's no status quo. There is no equilibrium. You're either improving or you're falling behind. That's true of our state as well. So the next governor of the state of Tennessee cannot be a manager, someone who just keeps the momentum going. We need a leader, and that leader is Marsha Blackburn. We need a leader who will keep our economy strong and growing so that more Tennesseans can become even more prosperous. That leader is Marsha Blackburn. We need a leader who will keep our communities safe. That leader is Marsha Blackburn. We need a leader who will keep men out of women's sports and out of women's bathrooms. That leader is Marsha Blackburn. We need a leader who will not only keep Tennessee on track, but will push us higher and take us to the summit of being America's conservative powerhouse. And that leader is Marsha Blackburn. You look at Senator Blackburn's track record. A lot of folks talk the talk. She has walked the walk. She did a tremendous job in the Tennessee General Assembly. She's done an outstanding job representing her district and our state in the United States Congress. And she will do an amazing job as the next governor of our great state. So thank you all so very much. And please remember, there is a straw poll at the end of the night. Please cast your ballot for Marsha Blackburn. Thank you.
That's okay. Well, some of us, God made some of us normal size and he stretched others out. But anyway, so thank you, Mayor Jacobs. We appreciate you coming in Marsha's stead. Up next, I'm going to ask one of our county commissioners, Mr. Rob Holman, another great Republican office holder here in Obion County. He's going to come up and introduce Congressman John Rose.
Thank you, John. Good evening. Appreciate everybody coming out. This is a great crowd here. You know, I look around here and I see a bunch of farmers. I see a bunch of people that are involved in agriculture businesses. And by the way, if you didn't know it, if you're eating tonight, you're involved in agriculture. And I tell you what, if we need somebody in the governor's mansion, it needs to be somebody that represents the largest and strongest industry in this state. And that is a farmer, and that man is Congressman John Rose. Congressman John Rose is an 8th generation farmer and still lives and farms on the same 8th generation farm that his family has owned. The governor of Tennessee should be someone with business and executive experience. Congressman John Rose has owned 2 successful Tennessee businesses and has built them from the ground up. He is the only candidate with qualified business experience. The governor of Tennessee should be a person of integrity, someone who cannot be bought. Congressman John Rose knows what it means to rise early, work hard, and live by your word. The lessons he learned on the farm, responsibility, resilience, and respect for God's creation, have shaped everything he's done in his life. Congressman John Rose is a devoted husband to his wife Chelsea and a father to 2 boys and a strong conservative who focuses on what matters most: faith, family, and freedom. We need a governor who possesses these qualities. And lastly, we need a governor who shows up. He showed up in Congress and is a Trump-endorsed, reliable, no-nonsense conservative who puts Tennessee first. He stood with President Trump to defend our border. He stood up and protected our children, fights for rural communities, and stands up to the D.C. swamp. He has showed up in D.C., and he has showed up right here in Obion County. So put your hands together. Let's give a big welcoming to the most qualified Republican candidate for governor of the state of Tennessee, Congressman John Rose.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. And it's good to be with you tonight. Let me get that off the... It's good to be with you tonight. I am John Rose, and I'm a Christian. I'm a husband, a father, a farmer, a small business owner, a current member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and yes, I'm running for governor of Tennessee in 2026. It is good to be with you tonight, and it is so encouraging to see this great crowd here tonight. And so let's give John McMahon and the Obion County Republican Party a big hand for this great event tonight. It is always a pleasure to be on the same program with my good friend David Kustoff, who, let me tell you, is doing a fabulous job representing the people of the 8th District of Tennessee. And so let's give a big hand to David Kustoff. And Mayor Carr, it was so good to hear you on the program and know what a great job and what local government is doing here in Obion County. You should be proud of the accomplishments and what this community is achieving, and it is so impressive to be in your community and see all the great things that are happening. There are some others that I want to recognize tonight before I launch into what I have to say to you and share with you about me and my campaign for governor of Tennessee. So I want, if we could, to have all the veterans in the room, all the police officers, law enforcement officials, and I know some are standing in the back, and our first responders. If you're in those three categories, would you stand up and let's give this group of people a big round of applause. Absolutely. What a great group of people who have put themselves, and in some cases are putting themselves daily into harm's way to secure freedom and peace and security for all of us in this room. And so we're very proud of what you do and in awe of the sacrifice that you and your families make for all of us as Americans. There's another group I want to recognize tonight, though, because it is tough times for these folks. If you're a farmer, would you stand up? Would you stand up tonight if you're a farmer in this community? Wow, that's great to see. Let's give this group a round of applause. Folks, you know, it is tough times. It is tough times in farm country, as tough as it has ever been. You know, I thought when I was a kid in the FFA years ago in the late 70s and early 80s that hopefully there would never be a tougher time for agriculture, but I believe we unfortunately have arrived at such a time. And as I see those people standing, and I know many of them would attest to this, we're going to be lucky if all of our farmers make it through this period. We're losing farmers because it is such a tough time. And you know, it would be easy to say government can come to the aid, but that's not the way farmers want to survive. They want to survive by producing the food and fiber that it takes to feed this country and much of the rest of the world. And so it is the reason that I have great pride serving on the House Agriculture Committee, serving alongside President Trump as he fights to open markets so that this country and our farmers can succeed and get back in the business of producing the food and fiber, not only to feed a hungry nation, but to feed a hungry world. And so I am so proud of the farmers that are here tonight. You know, when I ran for Congress 8 years ago, I ran because I was convinced that President Trump had a vision for restoring the greatness of this country. And I believed, it was a sober observation, that our generation, and I'll put those of you about my age and around that age in the same category, we're at risk of passing this country on to the next generation in worse condition than our parents left it to us. If we let that happen, we'll be the first generation of Americans to do that. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's not acceptable. And that's what motivated me to run for Congress, because I was frustrated that a Republican majority in 2017 and 2018 wasn't supporting our president. And I was fortunate enough to be elected by the people of the 6th District of Tennessee, a district over around Nashville and East. Unfortunately, that year, the American electorate saw fit to take the majority away from the Republicans in the House of Representatives. Perhaps an assessment of the job that we had been doing at the time, or that the House at that time had been doing. And so when I reported for work on January 3rd, 2019, I got sworn in by Nancy Pelosi. It was a rough 4 years in the minority. You can imagine how thrilled I was, along with our president, when she announced this week that she's not going to seek re-election. It is a good day for America, I would tell you. But I got elected. I got to serve in the House in the minority for 4 years, and then we won the majority back. We got to play defense against Joe Biden. And then last November 5th, the American people re-elected President Donald Trump to be the 47th President of the United States. And they gave us, again, a majority in the House and a majority in the United States Senate. And so starting on January 20th, we've been working hard alongside President Trump to get this country back on track. And I've been so proud to get to be a part of that. And the part that Congress has played in that, we passed the One Big Beautiful Law. And for those of you in this room, you know the biggest tax cut in American history, the biggest spending cut in American history, though it's just a start. Tax cuts for Americans all across the board, eliminating the tax on overtime, the tax on tips, and providing a tax break to Americans who are on Social Security, all important things. But I'm particularly proud because in the One Big Beautiful Law was amazing policy for our nation's farmers, a $65 billion increase in the safety net for farmers, an adjustment to reference prices and target prices, the first change in base acres in a generation, 30 million acres that can be reallocated. These are all things that are important for agriculture. But one thing that I'm particularly proud of, because as a young FFA member growing up in the 1970s and 1980s, I, along with FFA members then and ever since, have been giving speeches about removing the death tax, about saving the family farm from being taken away from farmers because of taxes, because of estate taxes. And the One Big Beautiful Law, acting on the call that had come from so many in the agricultural community for so long, provides a $15 million exemption for every person when they die so that the family farm can be passed on tax-free. And I can't overstate the importance of that. But here's even better news. It's permanent. So a future Congress will have to undo it. It doesn't expire like so many things that Congress has done in recent years. And even better, it's indexed for inflation, protecting the value of those farms over the years. And so for all those farmers who stood up and small business owners and others who work hard all your lives to accumulate things with the hope of passing them on to the next generation, the One Big Beautiful Law delivers on that promise and is a great accomplishment for this country. Now, when I ran for Congress, I believed that the founders of this country wanted a citizen legislature. They wanted people like me and you to go to Washington and serve for a season and come home. And so I announced earlier this year that at the end of my current term, my fourth term, 8 years, January 3rd, 2027, I'm coming home. And another American, another great American, hopefully, will go and serve and represent the 6th District of Tennessee. That's the way the founders wanted it to be. I'm always humored when I see politicians say, we want term limits for congressmen. And one of the most interesting pledges I've heard recently is a person running for Congress who said, I'm in favor of term limits for congressmen, and I will stay in Washington until we get it done. Well, folks, I think the best way to get it done is to lead by example. That's what my parents taught me. I was blessed to grow up in a great Christian home with great parents and great siblings on a farm, learning from a farmer and a public school teacher. And so I learned you live and you lead by example. And that's what I would promise to do for you if I am able to serve you in a future capacity as governor of this Tennessee. So I announced back on March 20th that I'm coming home from Congress, but I think I have some service left in me. And so I announced on March 20th that I am asking you to elect me to be the next governor of the state of Tennessee. And tonight, I'm here to try to make that case for you. So what's the big issue? The big issue is that while Tennessee is a great state, we have low taxes and we have low debt and we have favorable regulations and we're just, doggone it, we're just friendly people, right? People are flocking to our state. And if we're not careful, we're going to wake up in a few years and this ain't going to seem like Tennessee anymore. We're going to lose the nature and quality of what makes Tennessee special. And so we got to be very careful about who we choose to be our next governor. And so what's my case? I would tell you that the governor of Tennessee is the CEO of the state of Tennessee, responsible for leading the state, responsible, yes, for managing a very large organization, over 40,000 employees in state government. That's not counting our public school teachers. So we need someone who's ready to lead, someone who on day one can roll up their sleeves and go to work. We don't have time for on-the-job training. Now, I've been in Congress now for almost 7 years, And if that was the only thing on my resume, I would tell you I wouldn't hire me, and I don't think you would need to hire me. But it's not that line on my resume that I think qualifies me to be the leader of the state. You see, in 1992, the year my opponent first started running for public office, I started a business. And I, along with a business partner, started with nothing, and we didn't inherit a family business, we built a business. We created scores of jobs. I know what it's like to sign the front side of a paycheck. I know what it's like to take an idea and turn it into a vision and make that vision into a reality. And that's the kind of person we need to lead the state of Tennessee. And I'm ready to go to work on day one. Now, what are the issues? What are the specific issues that we hear? My friend Richard Archie talked about one of them. We've got to protect our rights. And I'll start with the First Amendment rights, the right to assemble like we are tonight, the right to speak freely, the right to worship as we see fit. But we can't depend on those rights if we can't defend them. And so, yes, our Second Amendment rights are absolutely critical. And to answer Mr. Archie's question, I will promise you that I will do everything within my power if you elect me to be the next governor of this state to make sure that we have true constitutional carry in Tennessee. And that means not making decisions like appealing a decision that actually restored our Second Amendment rights in the Hughes v. Lee decision. But it means more than that. It means using the power of the governorship to advocate in the legislature for the laws that will give us that, and to also make sure that our Constitution ultimately is in sync with the U.S. Constitution. And so I'll fight for that. Now, what are other issues that I hear? Here in West Tennessee, it would be remiss if I didn't lead off by saying our governor has a responsibility to make sure that our communities are safe. And that means fighting crime in places like Memphis, Tennessee, to make sure Memphians can live safely and securely and go about their lives unmolested by the criminal element. And we need a governor who understands that it's the first and primary responsibility of state government to do that. We delegate that responsibility to localities like Memphis and Shelby County, but that doesn't mean that the state can just abdicate that responsibility. So we need a governor who'll fight to do that. What are the other issues I'm hearing from Tennesseans? And because at the end of the day, that's what matters. As I said on March 20th when I announced I was running, it's not about what I want for the future of Tennessee. It's about what you want for the future of Tennessee. And you need a governor who's willing to listen, who shows up in places like Obion County and all across the state. So I've been to all 95 counties and I've been listening to Tennesseans. And what are you saying? From that, I've identified 5 issues that you put at the top of the list. Education, number 1. We've got to make sure that we're preparing our children for the careers of tomorrow. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. My sons are enrolled in public schools in Smith County, Tennessee. And I am fighting hard, and my wife Chelsea is, to make sure that they get the kind of quality education they need to be successful for the future of our state. And we've got to make sure that we do that for our kids all across this state. Now, choice is important. We want parents to have choices when the school systems are failing them. We want them to be able to have options. But we've got to keep in mind that 90% of Tennessee kids are going to graduate from a public high school. And so one of the pledges I've made is that if you elect me to be your governor, we'll have a commissioner of education who has spent time teaching in a Tennessee public school classroom. Why does that matter? That matters because you can't ask teachers, you can't ask people to follow someone who doesn't understand the plight that they face. And so we've got to have leaders, we've got to have folks in the right position who understand the challenges that we all face, and that's true for public school teachers and teachers across the state. What's the second issue? Infrastructure. Roads. Too many times the road to the future in Tennessee is filled with potholes or isn't wide enough, and you experience gridlock, and you've all experienced it. So we've got to have a governor who will take on the challenge of infrastructure in this state. And I pledge to you that we'll clear the road to the future so that it runs smoothly. Number 3 is access to health care. I visited earlier with the administrator of the local hospital. Tennessee has lost more rural hospitals than any state in the country except for Texas. We have counties in this state where the only access to health care is the public health department. If you want to see a doctor, if you want to see a dentist, if you want to see an eye doctor like my brother who's here with me tonight, you have to travel outside the county. Folks, that's not acceptable. I'm not talking about creating a great new entitlement. I'm talking about working with healthcare providers to make sure that healthcare is readily accessible in every county in Tennessee, and we can do that, and I will pledge to you that I'll work hard to do that. We also have a problem with mental health care in this state. Too many times our emergency rooms, our jails, our court system, the ranks of the homeless are filled with people who are actually suffering from long-term chronic mental health conditions. We've got to take care of that. We are spending a lot of your taxpayer dollars letting those people be stuck in a revolving door, filling our jails, filling our hospitals. And so we've got to have a governor who will take that problem on. Fourth is access to energy. It sounds like a strange thing for me to say, but I think that's particularly appropriate to talk about here in West Tennessee, where you have Blue Oval City being constructed to build electric-powered vehicles. Folks, we don't have the electricity to even serve the needs that the state has today. We're turning away businesses from Tennessee because we don't have the electric power they need. And we've got to have a governor who will continue, as Governor Lee has, to lead in that arena so that Tennessee will be the place where the next generation of nuclear power is generated, because that is the answer. Small modular reactors. And we've got the first in the nation site permitted at the Clinch River site over in Oak Ridge. And so we need a governor that will continue to lead so that we don't have the rolling brownouts and blackouts that we saw 2 years ago. And then finally, as you all are very well acquainted here within West Tennessee, we've got to have a governor who's constantly looking to develop the jobs and encourage the development of the jobs of the future. And I promise to you that I will do that. We got to keep two things in mind. We should always look to our farms and to our farmers and encourage them to innovate and think up new ways to provide the products and services that we need as Americans to add value. And secondly, we've always got to keep in mind that the best jobs are that come from the businesses that are grown right here in Tennessee. I promise you that I'll roll up my sleeves and work hard to make sure that this state is successful. Now, why does it matter that we have somebody with experience? It matters because if you haven't been in the trenches doing these things, then you can't expect to, if you elect a governor who hasn't been in the trenches, then they're not going to be able to do what is necessary to make this state successful. I've done that as a farmer and as a small business owner, and I can bring that experience and understanding, having been one of you, to being your next governor, and I ask humbly for your vote. Thank you for having me tonight.
All right. Next up, I want to invite Miss Denise Fritts up, and hopefully Monty was nice to her on the way down. Go ahead, Miss Denise.
Good evening. Good evening. I am Denise Fritts, and I am introducing my best friend. Monty and I have been married for 41 years, and so nobody knows him better than me. And so I just kind of want to give you an idea of who this man is, because I know him. I know his heart. I know his motivations. I know why he's doing this. You see, his foundation, his cornerstone is Jesus. It always has been. This is the man that gets up at 2 o'clock in the morning and he's on his knees praying for something. For many years, it's been our state. And it's been the things that's going on in our state. And he's crying out to God for help for us. This is the man that I have watched God form into the man he is. The one that started in a security force, but God just kept opening doors and moving him. This is the man that ended up being the director of enriched uranium operations. Something that we would have never guessed. We were high school graduates. We had no college. How in the world do you do that? But God does. God has. And God always will. The one thing I can tell you about this man is he loves Tennessee. You see, I stand in this armory and I think of Christmas parties at an armory in Harriman, Tennessee. because that's what we did as soldiers' wives. That when he was in Iraq as a veteran, I was the one who made the call, who stood by the soldier's family when they passed. You see, we've done the hard things. We will continue to do the hard things. And this man loves Tennessee. I'm asking you to listen. I'm asking you to consider, and I'm asking you to pray before you vote. It is my honor to introduce to you Monty Fritts.
Hey, it's good to be with y'all tonight. I'm going to adjust this a little bit, John, if you don't mind. Get up here a little bit closer, and we'll see how that works. It's good to be with you all. Hey, I am Monty Fritts. I'm a state rep down in House District 32. I get to work with several good guys, but especially Chris and Rusty there. And my vision for the state of Tennessee is pretty simple. It's liberty and less government. And that includes Tennessee citizens keeping more of their money in their own pocket, making government work for the betterment of all Tennesseans, having excellence in education, and ending the woke, broke culture that infects our colleges and universities, protecting our God-given individual, parental, small business rights, and including the life in that Second Amendment, that right to keep and bear arms. Election security has got to be on top of our list, friends. What we see happening across our nation, we must be ever diligent about not allowing that to slip. We must stop funding anything that pays for foreign citizens in the state of Tennessee. We must protect innocent life. This federal approach that we have, where we have late-term abortion protection, is an abomination and a sin upon this country, and we need to be Tennesseans. We need to mature a Tennessee First energy policy, which I had the privilege to get to start in the state of Tennessee. We need to stop the corporate welfare and protect our infrastructure. And we need to stop Tennessee's bureaucratic overreach into our families and our lives. My friends, I think this. I think if you'll show me your faith or your faithfulness to your oath and to your commitment and to what you say, not through words and mailers and sound bites and some of the things we do in politics today. Don't try to convince me with who you know, the celebrities you've got, how much money you can put into this thing. Show me how you step forward into the cloud of dust and how you take on the challenges. That's the way we men evaluate one another in this life. I think Tennesseans want a person that can lead Tennessee toward liberty and less government. I too have been in all the counties in the state, and from the Mississippi to the Smoky Mountains, I assure you that message resonates. You know, 2 Corinthians 3:17 tells us where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. And that liberty, by definition, is very basically this, that we stand before Almighty God with a right given by Him and in front of our fellow man and government to decide to do the right thing and share the reward, or to choose to do the wrong thing and have the consequences of it. And I think that liberty, I think most Tennesseans want to see a man that God has equipped to lead in a range of challenges. And I think God is calling men of courage in this state to lead today. I think what we see in places like New York City and around the country, I think in this state I see a move of the Holy Spirit that God is calling men of courage. He's not calling men to imitate the chants and the shouts of others. He's calling men to lead and stand on the authority of His word. So my friends, here am I, send me. I'm applying to you today to be the next governor of the state of Tennessee. You know, back in 1983, I enlisted in the Army. I put my name on the line and raised my right hand because I do believe in this land and I believe in this state. I believe in the true volunteer spirit, not just the orange paint. It's much deeper than that. As a House Veterans Caucus chair, I know the challenges facing our Tennessee Guardsmen, our veterans. As a combat veteran from Iraq and a leader, I know how to train. I know how to plan. I know how to equip. And I know how to lead missions in hostile and unfriendly areas like the D.C.
establishment or the Nashville establishment we have in Tennessee, cultures where veterans are often left out. In that, I support the Defend the Guard Act, the bill that we have here, taken up for our Tennessee soldiers and their families. So when Congress fails again and again and again to do their job and either declare war or stop the endless undeclared wars, we should keep those soldiers at home, and we need a governor with the guts to stand up and do that. I passed House Joint Resolution 98 to urge Congress and the VA to care for those veterans that were injured by the COVID-19 jabs and the anthrax vaccinations that many of us were forced to take. And in many cases, those were unlawful orders. That same resolution I drafted calls for an investigation. I sent it to all my members of Congress. I am sad to tell you I've heard nothing back. We can't accept that. And meanwhile, we have bills like House Resolution 1263 for the Quad countries, that we find ourselves getting further entangled with foreign nations so that American blood may be shed there. We have to have a governor that will lead differently than where we've been going. I've tried to bring attention to the homeless veteran shelter in Memphis, Tennessee at Barron Heights, where the VA is failing to fund, and we've got 40 men that may not have care. And again, I've sent letters, and I've got little response from my federal representation. Shame on you all that haven't responded. Shame on you that haven't helped our homeless veterans. We cannot allow D.C. and Nashville establishment culture to maintain its stronghold on our liberty in Tennessee. We need liberty and less government. And I'm the only candidate that's willing to push through for that. At the real base of our economy is our wallet and your purse. Tennesseans must keep more of their money in their pockets, and they must keep more in their counties. With a budget that has grown from $37.5 to $59.5 billion in just 6 years' time, 59% growth, we should be concerned. I've demonstrated a willingness to go against these budgets that are laden with corporate welfare and offer budget amendments to reduce the budget. Tennessee cannot trust the D.C. mentality in Nashville any longer. When we think about the size of the budget, it is balanced, and that is a good thing, but it's growing too fast, and we must stop that. When we have folks in the Senate that refuse to vote for limits on the debt or the deficit, we can't trust them to manage our budget. Corporate welfare is simply a tax on average Tennesseans, that we're sending our dollars to millionaires, billionaires, and global companies, and we must stop that. Let liberty and less government be the draw for industry in the state of Tennessee. And energy is that fuel for that industry and that economy. While Congress has allowed TVA to shutter coal-fired plants in our state, reducing our generating capacity, 4.3% of the capacity was lost when Bull Run was shut down just 2 years ago, and we allowed that to happen. While that happened in D.C. and the oversight on TVA, I was passing legislation to establish a Tennessee energy policy and restructuring the Energy Policy Council. While the same reckless TVA policy would seize additional land in Cheatham County, I'm one of only a couple people that stood up for those folks in Cheatham County with a letter challenging US TVA not to do that. And as Denise said, as the former director of enriched uranium operations and leader at Nuclear Fuel Services, and under Trump 45 managing the Office of Stockpile Production Integration, I understand the nuclear industry. I understand all the ins and outs of the uranium supply chain and what we need for this nuclear renaissance. I am the one that's equipped to lead Tennessee into this nuclear renaissance, and I will ask for your vote. While all this has taken place, some in Congress failed to even vote on House Resolution 26, the American Energy Production Act. And they failed to vote on House Resolution 35, overturning the EPA's 2024 waste emission charge rule. While I was leading, their non-support of those bills expressed a concern about how much energy that we're going to generate, not only in Tennessee, but in America. Tennessee must end this misappropriation on our corporate welfare dollars to industry and to sports teams. Let the millionaires build their own ball fields. We must begin to protect and strengthen and add capacity to all our critical infrastructure, our electrical and electrical generating capacity, our water and our sewage, our solid waste, and our roads, and our emergency services. We need to be making investments there. And education excellence leads us to that. We must no longer accept a subsidized decision to a few to enable them to make up for the accountability we should be holding on those who have failed us, those few that have failed us in education. I voted against this ridiculous school voucher thing that Governor Lee offered. And as governor of the state of Tennessee, I will end that. It is Article 11, Section 12, unconstitutional, and I will stop it. As governor in our education, I will also challenge Plyler versus Department of Education. We should not be paying to educate foreign children in Tennessee. I will budget and direct the Department of Education to understand and fully comply with that Article 11 and Section 12. And a leaner, more excellence-focused Department of Education will end the overuse of costly standardized testing. And finally, in education, I will take a scalpel or a hatchet, if necessary, to the funding for the colleges and the universities that preach these Marxist and atheist ideologies in the state of Tennessee. I've had enough, and I think you all have too. We face an existential threat in Tennessee. And that threat is that our entire culture will crumble if we do not consider our rights as coming from Almighty God. I hold that true. Our Tennessee Republican Party guiding principles state that. Yet in Nashville and D.C., we have taken a different approach. As was mentioned by the Hughes v. Lee appeal, we think that we can give you your rights and take them away. Lee's red flag push is another example. And then just this year, the Senate allowed a parliamentarian to continue to infringe upon your rights to own a short-barreled rifle or shotgun or buy a suppressor. They allowed a staffer to do that. Shame on them. We should put those staffers into position. We elected officials need to stand up and own these things. And I'll define, Richard, what constitutional carry is, because we should stop this foolish appeal that is going, and if I have the opportunity, I will stop it. And I'll define constitutional carry for you folks as this. It is not only my right to carry my sidearm, it is my right to carry my shotgun, my AR-15, or my 30-30. We must remove that intent to go armed. We must enable campus carry because our young people do not relinquish their rights when they go off to college. It's an apostasy that we do that today. And we must remove these dangerous gun-free zones that invite predators in, and I will do those, sir. You have my commitment to do that. I will also not enforce unconstitutional gun language, firearms language. And I will act to nullify any federal language and any federal legislation that infringes upon our right to keep and bear arms. I will be that person that it shall not be infringed in Tennessee. I've passed legislation to protect our firearms industries in Tennessee. The gun owners of America tell us that we now have the strongest legislation, the strongest laws in the country to protect our firearms manufacturers. It's important for Tennessee to lead the way. My legislation has also led the way in stopping environmental manipulation. My bill, House Bill 2063, prohibits geoengineering in the state of Tennessee. After passing that, 32 states have followed us. I'm okay with leading. I think Tennesseans ought to lead, and I intend to do that. As governor, I will begin to enforce that law, which is not being enforced now, and we'll try to clean up the skies for our families and for our farmers. I do love this state, and I'll close with this, my friends. I appreciate you all having me tonight. The Bible says, show me your faith. James chapter 2, verse 17 and 18, and I'll abbreviate it just a bit. Even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead. Show me thy faith without works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Friends, I'm showing you some of my works and what we've accomplished. While others give you excuses, we've given you results coming out of House District 32, and I can do that as governor. When the Obergefell ruling come down and we ruined the institution that God has designed of marriage, we offered House Bill 878 that prevents any pastor, any man from being forced to solemnize a marriage in the state of Tennessee. That's important. We have to stand up for what God has said is right. We also authored the resolutions the first time I think I was in y'all's county. Pray for Tennessee. House Joint Resolution 803 declared July as a month of prayer and fasting in the state of Tennessee, seeking the hand of Jesus for healing because we are in trouble. We need a move of God in Tennessee, so much so that the next year we come back and passed it again. And it's now every July in the state of Tennessee. I'm proud of that. We've led the country again. I think Almighty God is calling men of courage in Tennessee to stand up by the authority of His Word and boldly keep our oath to the Constitution that He gave us. Not to be hearers of the words, not to be emailers, not to be sayers, but to be doers. I am a doer. When the dust rolled in 2003, I come back and re-enlisted to go and serve with my fellow Tennesseans. I am not afraid of this challenge. God has equipped me and called me to do this. So now, you have that liberty to choose. I'll simply not follow the political status quo. I have it to this point. I'll lead Tennessee toward liberty and less government. So will you follow a real leader? I'm humbly asking for your vote, your prayers as I fly, that you will fly with me toward liberty and less government in the great state of Tennessee. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Monty. All right, so you probably have a straw poll, or you may have already given it to one of the SEC members. If you have that, as Ryan and Tess are making their way around the room, you could give that to them, please. In a few minutes, we're going to have Scott Golden come up and with some closing remarks. Scott is the Tennessee Republican chairman. While he is speaking, the SEC members will be counting the votes from the straw poll. Please don't gather around the table where they're counting. Each campaign can have one observer there to not interrupt them while they're counting, but our two SEC members will count those. Scott Golden, are you here? Yep, come on up.
No, everybody stay seated, please, stay seated. All right. Well, I just want to say, as everybody's talking, I will say this. Does anybody, if you have a ballot in your hand that you have not turned over, please raise your hand and somebody will get it. That was what I was tasked to do. Any other ballots out there? Election integrity is a big part of what we do, so I know that they're going to do it well as they count the votes and they wait. Well, welcome to the shortest Lincoln Day, Reagan Day, Trump Day dinner in 2025, by the way. This is officially the mayor, the congressman. We can all attest that 2 weeks ago, we were at a Reagan Day dinner that I'm pretty sure is almost over right now. It was for 2 weeks. John, you've had a lot of praise for this wonderful dinner tonight, but let me tell you something. This wait staff has been absolutely fantastic. Everybody, thank you for the willow tree. Thank you. The best assortment of desserts in the history of Reagan Day dinners right there in front of you. A lemon, a chocolate, and a pumpkin. That is 100% fantastic. So, and by the way, if somebody hasn't eaten it yet, feel free to go ahead and eat it, because this is it. We're moving through quickly. Tess, Ryan, thank you for your service. Thank you for counting. John, thank you for your service to the Republican Party. I need to start with a little housekeeping tonight. I know most of you will be driving home as I see my friends all over from West Tennessee. The speed limit at Troy drops to 45 miles an hour, all right? Now, after that, though, it's 97, I'm pretty sure. 45 south, if you want to stop by and just do some donuts through the White Squirrel Winery. I think Representative Sanderson would appreciate it. And 22 to Martin, I think it's 100 miles an hour is the speed limit. I'm pretty sure, right, Commissioner? Not Clarksburg, yes, slow down in Clarksburg, because this whole dinner has been a trap to raise tax dollars to West Tennessee, by the way. But as I see everybody from West Tennessee, it's so wonderful to see friends here. If you serve the Republican Party, I know we've acknowledged a lot of people here tonight, but if you are serving on one of your county executive committees across West Tennessee, please stand up so we can give you a round of applause as well. Thank you, Mayor, appreciate it. Jamie, thank you for your service and all that we're doing to get Republicans elected. As I was driving up here tonight, I couldn't help but think the first time that I was at a Reagan Day dinner in this building. Ryan Elligood and I have been talking about it all week. It was 23 years ago that I was here at a Reagan Day dinner. We had a governor on the ballot, we had a Senate on the ballot, and it was during the summer, and you think it's hot in here tonight? Come back in July and sit through a dinner, by the way. It lasted about 4 hours that night with all the candidates on the ballot, but it was a wonderful reminder of even how much the Republican Party has grown since then. 23 years ago in 2002, everybody that represented Obion County was a Democrat. Every single one of them. And yet, we still met here tonight. And I think about the shoulders that we stand on. Some of you remember, I always talk about Mr. Stone. Those of you from Union City know Mr. Stone. And I said, you know, it takes a lot of guts to vote to say that you support Ed Bryant in 1988 against John Tanner as a Democrat. It took a lot of guts. And I see all my friends here tonight, Mike Daniels, Rob Joyner, Art Sparks, all the people that have served in this party when it wasn't very cool to be a Republican. In fact, it was the complete opposite. I see the names of the people that were elected mayor, sheriff in 2018 for the first time, mayor in 2022 for the first time. The Republican Party is growing, and it's growing all over West Tennessee. Sadly, however, 20 years ago when we were here, the Democrats that were there then are not the Democrats of today. I know Congressman Rose mentioned the sad retirement of Nancy Pelosi, by the way. Yeah, exactly. She can resume her day trading on her own time now. Yeah, you'll think about it on the way home. That's a funny joke, by the way. But Nancy Pelosi is not, and it's actually a really great parallel of what's happening this week. Nancy Pelosi is not leaving Washington because she's tired. Nancy Pelosi is leaving Washington because she's too conservative for the Democrat Party. Mondani is the flavor of the week. It is a perfect metaphor that he was elected on Tuesday night and she stepped down on Wednesday. She is the old, the new is Mondani. Democrat, socialist, progressive. This is the new Democrat Party that we face. And what happened on Tuesday night should really remind us all that our enemies are not sleeping. They overperformed in New Jersey. They overperformed in Virginia. We lost races in Pennsylvania, Maine, New Hampshire, California, Georgia, Mississippi. As Congressman Kustoff rightly said, when you are the out party, anger and spite will drive more voters to the polls than happiness and satisfaction. We have to rededicate ourselves, which is why we're all here on a Friday night. And God bless you for doing so. But what Tuesday showed us is that if we are not ever vigilant, this country will go the other way. And 2026 is right at it. 41 midterm elections. The party of the president has lost 39 of the midterm elections. 2026, the motto is that we are going to break history. Not make history, break history. Because as the Congressman rightfully said, if we lose November of 2026, get ready for impeachment, inquiries. The entire Washington shuts down. The Trump agenda is over. And we are back to fighting. 2020 was so close to losing everything. Congressman Rose, all of those rights, that First Amendment, they did shut down churches. They did censor people on Twitter. All of those things, the Second Amendment, Richard Archie, all of those things that we hold dear came very close to us losing them all during the pandemic. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. Fortunately, 2024 has turned it around, but what Tuesday proved is we can't just sit back and wait. We have to keep going evermore. So, rights are on the ballot. 2026, Tennessee, as you've heard, is moving in the right direction. We've done our part to lead this nation. The big, beautiful bill passed by one vote, and that one vote was created by the Tennessee General Assembly. It was one. Now you're seeing the rest of the country do what Tennessee did 5 years ago. We have led the way in this state every step of the way, and it is important for us to be that leader, but we can't rest on our laurels, which is why we're here tonight, to celebrate, to listen to these great candidates. Everybody that runs for office, God bless you for putting yourself through it. It has probably never been a more dangerous time in the history of our country to put yourself out there on Facebook, on Twitter, for people to stalk you. There is no telling the amount of danger that you're in for saying what you want to say. And no more was driven home than a couple weeks ago with the tragedy of Charlie Kirk and what we face with our movement. But you guys are here tonight. You're in a wonderful room that we've been in before and that we'll be in again as the crowd overflows. So from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the Tennessee Republican Party, thank you for all you're doing. Local elections are starting up December 22nd, but we do have an opportunity in the next couple weeks to affect change one more time. The 7th Congressional District is open. Early voting starts west of Nashville on Wednesday. Normal elections are not held, early voting, between Veterans Day and Thanksgiving. This one is held between Veterans Day and Thanksgiving, with the election to follow the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. All of us are related to each other in West Tennessee, so I suspect that somebody will be spending the holidays, Thanksgiving, in Stewart County, Houston County, Humphreys County, Benton County, Decatur County. Please reach out and remind your friends and neighbors that live in those districts that this election is happening. Because I'm going to tell you this now, if we lose this election on December 2nd, forget for a moment that we would lose it to a socialist that, by the way, invited Jasmine Crockett to come campaign with her today. This is what we're talking about in Middle Tennessee, that the Pelosi's are out and the Jasmine Crockett's are in. And Rusty and Chris, you guys served with Afton Byrne. You know how outside the mainstream she is. If we lose that election, the Democrats, the message that they will take away is every seat is in play. 2026 is there for the taking. We're not going to let it happen. God bless you all for being here tonight. Thank you for participating in this Reagan Day dinner. John, thank you for your leadership. And by the way, this is, without a doubt, record time in all the dinners that we have had this year. You congratulate yourself on being here for this one. Let's hang out and talk for a while and more fellowship. John, thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. Another announcement from Rusty Grills. The law enforcement officers that are here, if you're related or know law enforcement officers, be sure to remind them, Rusty Grills is going to have a 2025 Law Enforcement Appreciation Dinner Thursday, November the, Thursday, November the, what is the date, Rusty? 20th? Is that right? 20th at 7 p.m., 5 to 7 p.m., sorry. Is it Blue Bank? At Blue Bank. Do they need to do anything special or just show up? Show up. Law enforcement officer and their significant other just show up at Blue Bank Restaurant on November the 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. That's on a Thursday. Also, well, they're still counting the straw poll ballots, so we'll have the results of those in just a few minutes. But I would like to ask if there's any able-bodied men that's willing to stay for a few minutes. This guard unit is going to deploy Saturday and Sunday en route to Memphis, so we have to tear down everything that we put up tonight. So if there's anybody that's willing to stay and help tear it down, we would appreciate it. If you can't, we understand. And we have results. All right, so the straw poll results are Marsha Blackburn, 117, John Rose, 102, and Monty Fritts, 30. That is the results of the straw poll, and we will have those up on our Facebook. After tonight. One of the things I want to mention, I don't think anybody said this, but I want to say it real quickly. I know there's a lot of competitiveness right now as we get into this primary season with the 3 campaigns. And it's great and it's good. It's good for our system. It's good for all of us. But regardless of which one of the 3 ends up being our nominee, everybody in this room tonight needs to dedicate themselves to support whoever our nominee is, because everything that we have built in the Republican Party hinges over the next few years. If the Democrats take back support of our state or our country, we're done. And I think everybody knows that after the last few years. Listen, I won't keep you guys. I know it's warm in here. Thank you so much for driving up to Obion County. We love you. We appreciate you. We're going to try to have something in the spring, and we'll send the mailing list out, and we hope that you can come be with us then. But thank you for coming tonight. God bless you, and be safe on the way home.